Hello, my name is Baltikauskas, and this is my colleague Nitin Sikka. Today we're going to talk about master data management, a critical need for better citizen experience. So a basic agenda. First, I'm going to give you a definition. What is master data management? Then we're going to go over two different case studies. One of them is a agency-specific application, which is the EDR project. Another one is a statewide application that goes across the full agency. So I'll give you the two different perspectives and how they might relate to you. Then we're going to go in a little bit on the framework and the strategy on implementing an MDM and talk a little bit about why you want to do it and how to get there. So first, several different definitions of master data management pulled from DAMA, Gartner, and Wikipedia. Master data management is the intelligent linking of an organization's data into a single source of truth. Other variations are very similar. Technology-enabled discipline in which business and IT work together for uniformity, accuracy, stewardship, consistency, accountability, and once again, shared master data assets. And the final one from Wikipedia, maybe a little loose, but processes, governance, policies, standards, and tools to get to that single point of reference. My definition is a little more generic. We've been doing master data management since the beginning of IT, right? If you have an interface, you're trying to link data that comes in to the data that you already have. That's your central, that's your matching, that would be part of master data management. Or you have somebody come into the office and you want to add a new client or you want to add a new account. Well, you still have to see if that account exists. That's the same basic concept. So master data management now is more of a defined discipline that have tools to help manage that. Master data management provides two key functionalities, once again, that we've been doing for a long time, but now it's just a little bit easier. First one is matching. Do I know about this entity already, whether it's a person, whether it's an organization, whether it's a car or a widget, right? What uniquely identifies this object, and if another one comes in, will I match it to that same object that I already have? And the other key one that a lot of people kind of miss out on is searching, just being able to search and find somebody if you don't have all the right data. So I said we've been doing this since the beginning of time, right? So what we've been doing in the past, though, is we have very specific data tools or data rules that we use. We may match up an SSN or an ID. And if maybe that doesn't work, we also include the last name, or then we include the first name. Or what if they're flip-flopped? What if there's a typo in the ID? The master data management tools that are out there now allow us to have more probabilistic matching using those tools. So if my SSN ends in 535 and I accidentally type 553, our old rules may not find that because it's not the same ID. So it'll just kind of say, nope, I miss it completely. But the tools now, it can give some value to that being close based on your own specific rules. So let's go into a couple different case studies that we've done recently. The first one you may have heard about recently, it's the Franchise Task Force EDR project. It's a project we just wrapped up here in December that was awarded a Best Data Fit Integrator Award back in 2014. It was a 66-month project whose goal was to improve FTB's ability to use the data it receives and generate it to improve its tax compliance efforts and provide improved customer service. So far to date, as of last month, the project has accrued additional revenue for the state of California, $3.4 billion. That is a B. The tax gap we started with is 6 or 7 billion. Our project goal was to gain back 3 to 5 of that within the first couple of years. So far, so good. We're doing very well. 4 major components of this project. We have the taxpayer folder. That's our internal application. It allows the caseworkers and auditors and various folks at FTB to provide a consolidated and summarized view of the taxpayer data. We have a data warehouse behind it that we can use for reporting, doing ad hoc queries, statistical analysis, et cetera, on all the taxpayer data. When we say taxpayer data, they deal with 19 different external agencies 29 different files. That includes IRS, BOE, EDD, DMV, several others as well. The MDM allows us to tie all that data together so you can get a 360 view of that data. We also provide enterprise modeling services. This is a series of predictive analytic algorithms where we can identify productive audits, collections, and non-filing cases. So we let the tools determine which is the best audits to go after, which tax returns are the best ones that should be audited. And most importantly, for today's discussion, it's MyFTB. This is the external portal that all of us as California taxpayers can use to access our tax information and any other online services. So how many have actually been out to MyFTB? I know we were pushing a lot in the CIO conference last year. They're probably doing it again tomorrow on Thursday. If you go out there, you can see all your tax returns. You can see your wage information that we got from EDD. All of that data that we tied together, that's what master data management provides. It allows us to take the data from EDD, whether it's just your name and SSN, we tie that to the tax return data. We can tie that to your IRS tax returns. Master data management allows that functionality. So here are the few of the data challenges we had to overcome in order to get this done. So FTB has 5 major and dozens of minor applications. So does that sound familiar to anybody else? They have multiple applications in their agencies, their departments, their statewide system. Whatever level you're talking about, these data challenges may apply to you as well. Each application has its own data extraction and matching rules. Therefore, there's dozens of different matching rules throughout the systems. Like we said before, we've been doing this for a long time, but we've been having to code the rules ourselves. Like deterministic step-by-step matching, which most of these are. And they generally can't accommodate irregularities. So typing, my last name, you notice, is Baltikauskas. Not many people spell that right the first time, or second or third time. People get married, change their last name. We have typos. You have OCR applications. And if you have bad handwriting, the OCR may not be able to distinguish that 2 from a 7, that 2 from a 5. Additionally, they also have 29 external data files and 19 agencies, like as I mentioned before. What the MDM allows us to do is puts all that into one view. We can link all that data together. So now we've got basically a holistic view of each taxpayer. So this example is showing you within one agency. So just this agency alone, 5 major applications, 19 external data files. All that matching, instead of coding it record by record or with deterministic rules, we can do it with the MDM tool. So the end result here is we have your MDM database in the middle, and then we have an individual accounting system there. They call it taxpayer information. That's their personal income tax. We pull in IRS returns, whether it's your actual electronically filed return or it's directly from the IRS. And then they also have another internal application called for non-filing. So the MDM allows us to provide 2 different views or multiple different views of that data. So a 360-degree view. And you may be able to change that based on who's looking at your data. So in this situation, we have a non-filer application. They may have a little bit less information. Or to the external taxpayer folder, maybe there's a little bit more information based on who's viewing the data. So you can actually have different views of that same master data. We don't duplicate the data, but we just kind of show it differently. So maybe it's security, you don't show IDs to a certain group of either your workers or external, right? There's some things that we just don't expose to everybody. So the second example is, since it's a hot topic now, Votecal. This is Secretary of State's voter registration system. This was a 42-month project, which main goal was a single centralized voter registration system in compliance with the Help America Vote Act. So it was used to consolidate the 28 million voters in California across all the systems for a single official list of voters. Once again, mastered list of voters. Hopefully most of you are on that list. Their major components was election management system integration. So this allowed them to do the interaction between the individual counties. They also have same concept of external data exchange with integration with DMV, CDCR, public health, EDD. They have an internal website that manages all the data itself, and once again, the public website. So has anybody registered to vote using Votecal, the application? You can see your voter registration status out there as well. Very helpful. Same concept here. They used an MDM approach to aggregate and consolidate the voter registration data into a single repository. In this particular situation, we actually built the MDM from scratch. So at FTB, we use an out-of-box product. With Votecal, we actually built it in-house using the same basic concepts of MDM, but it's very similar to what like I said, we've done in the past. Just we're getting a little bit smarter about it now. So they had very similar data challenges. Instead of having 5 different applications within the department, they had data across 58 different counties. We have several agencies do the same thing: child support, public assistance, to name a few. The county update business process is also different by county. So the timing, whether they did it through batch or through APIs, for example. And there's no ability to monitor and enforce the standards from those third-party vendors, right? So they had agreements, but we couldn't really force the standards in the data that came across. Next one's kind of disturbing, but it happens a lot. This isn't talking bad about Votecal or the voting system, but anytime you have decentralized data, you can no longer tell if there's duplicates, because there's no way to match them. There's no central location to say, is John Doe here and here? They could be both. They ranged, based on surveys with the counties themselves, their duplicates range from 1% to 52%. Now, most of them are under 10, from what I understand, but it's a pretty high rate. And then lastly, it's not possible to ensure that the voters are unique. Once again, if you got your data distributed across different databases, there's no way to tie them together to determine if they're the same. So once again, we introduced a master data management solution here as well. It connects all of the 58 counties' offices together, allows the voters to register online, and then provides a single statewide database for voter registration information. So you see each one of the counties and external state partners that I mentioned before. Basically, Votecal is the MDM solution behind that. So does data problems sound familiar to anybody else in the room? Any of your departments, any of your agencies? Okay. So how do you solve the problem? Well, first we start with a general framework. First you have to have a vision. What are you trying to get across? What is the business benefit that you're trying to accomplish? Whether it's multi-counties into one central database, whether it's multiple applications within a department or within an agency, or even consortia, if you go to that level. You've got to define out your strategy. This is where you establish your data management, the data governance that you need to set up. You map out your roadmap, and then the organization transformation strategies. What do you have to change inside your department to move in this direction? For example, one of the biggest problems in MDM, that's my data. I don't want you to touch it. That sound familiar? That's one of the biggest things you got to overcome with MDM. You have to set up governance. Who's going to own the data? What are the policies and procedures for communicating the changes? How do you make the changes? What are the standards? Then you have to build your processes. You have to address the standards for creation, for validating the data, for sharing the data across your different departments, your different agencies, your different applications. Then you start building your architecture, your data mapping for the whole application. The way I like to see it the most, if you notice all the pictures I've shown, it's pretty much you have your master data management and you have data outside. Well, if you look at that more generically, you have your master data in the MDM and everything outside of it. And your data architecture has to be able to tie all that data together. That's the key piece. Setting up the MDM by itself, great start, but it's just that, it's just a start. You have to understand how that data ties across your whole data architecture, whether it's in your own department or across the state, across different agencies. Finally, you come up with the MDM technical infrastructure. This is when you start actually talking about how to do it, the tools. So notice none of this talks about a tool. It's tool agnostic. It's all based about the business processing first. Once you get the framework set, then you can start talking tools. What is the best tool to use? Whether it's an off-the-shelf product you reconfigure or whether it's something you build in-house. So your MDM strategy. First, it must be an enterprise initiative. Got to have buy-in. The higher up the chain that provides that backing, the more successful you're going to be. Said if you're talking 3 different departments within your agency, if they're not going to work together, MDM's going to be very difficult, right? They have to be willing to share their data and work together for a common set of truth. That's the goal. So you start at a point that provides technical approach and delivers business benefit. So you don't have to go big bang. And in both the solutions I described before, we did an incremental approach. So like at the EDR project, we started with one application. We just took their TI, their taxpayer information one. We put that in the MDM first. That's all we did. Didn't include anything to it, just put it in there so they can see the data. They can see how the linking, what kind of duplicates they had, how good or bad was their data. With the Votecal, they introduced incrementally, 5 months, like the first 5 counties. And then another wave was another couple counties. Another wave was another couple counties. So you start small and kind of work your way out. So as you see there in the lower left corner, the tactical. So you create your foundation, set up the basic technical architecture, your data architecture, your data movement jobs. Get that all set. And you limit the scope. You may only have one application, or maybe even just one entity. It's like at FTB, we have both individual taxpayers and we have business taxpayers. Well, we started with individuals. Don't bite up too much. Start small, prove it out, make sure it works. Gain experience and start seeing the benefits of that data. Need to have a roadmap, stick to it. That's the incremental approach. You have to plan for the people and the process change. Things are going to change. It may not be the same as you're doing now. You may eventually change to maintain that data at the central location instead of in the counties or in the individual applications within your department. There's different approaches. You can start, or I'll show you the next slide, how to get there. You're going to need to measure the progress and measure the quality. And most importantly on the bottom there, learn as you go. It's not something that's going to come that quick, naturally that quick. Start tactical, you work your way up toward the right where you get your enterprise. That's where you get your enterprise vision. Regardless of what level you're looking at, whether it's one department, whether it's one agency, or it's across the whole state, the MDM is based on that particular enterprise's view of the data. When you get to that point, you start seeing the information as an actual asset. The data itself is an asset. It provides value. Now it sets you up so you can see that value, whether it's the core of your data warehouse for your statistical analysis, for your SPSS, data initiatives, whatever those happen to be. It's the starting point to build all that up.